My relatives always called me the thrift shop girl. Upon becoming a millionaire, they pleaded for $450,000. My name is Clare Thompson, and I've spent my entire life as the designated family letdown. My sister, Olivia, was the golden child, beauty, charm, and according to my mom, all the brains. I, on the other hand, got hand-me-downs and lectures on being realistic. The whole thrift store girl thing started when I was just 16. Olivia needed a dazzling, expensive homecoming dress from Nordstrom. I needed clothes for school. I'd outgrown everything. Mom took us shopping, but the budget only stretched so far. Olivia walked out with a $250 outfit. Me? I got dropped off at Goodwill with a crisp $50 bill and the instruction to make it work. I found a vintage leather jacket that day, real leather, barely used, for $10. I was so proud. I wore it to school that Monday. When I got home, Olivia was in the living room, laughing with her friends. She saw me, her eyes lit up, and she announced, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Look, everybody, it's the thrift store girl. Did you get a good deal on those sad little secondhand dreams?" Her friends snickered. My mom was in the kitchen. She heard every word. She didn't say a thing to protect me. My dad, he was on a business trip, which was essentially his permanent status. And just like that, the name stuck. Olivia used family meals, holidays, and even random Tuesday nights to put me in my place. Out comes the thrift store girl. I had to grow a thick skin out of sheer necessity. While Olivia was pledging sororities at USC, posting endless beach party photos, I was working 2 jobs just to pay for community college. My tiny apartment smelled like the Indian restaurant downstairs. I ate ramen. I learned to hem my own clothes. No one was handing me anything, so every single dime mattered. My parents paid for Olivia's entire education. When I timidly asked if they could help with even one semester's tuition, Dad mumbled something about teaching me the importance of hard work. Olivia got her degree on a silver platter, but I apparently needed character development. I majored in computer science. I was good at it, and the jobs paid well. While my classmates chatted, I was coding. I built websites for small businesses, developed apps, soaked up everything about software development. I graduated with honors and no debt. That felt like winning a secret battle. My first real job was with a tech startup in Austin. The pay was decent. Finally, I could breathe without checking my bank account every 5 minutes. I rented a 1-bedroom apartment, bought my first new clothes in years. I posted a picture in the family chat, so proud of my little place. Olivia's comment? Cute, very minimalist. I guess thrift store furniture is making a comeback. It still stung, though less than it would have years ago. I'd moved 500 miles away for work, yes, but also to escape the constant comparisons. Austin felt like a fresh start, a place where no one knew me as the disappointing daughter. Here, I could just be Claire, the coder who wrote clean code and met deadlines. My apartment was nothing fancy, but it was mine. I slowly made friends at work, mostly coworkers who appreciated my dry humor and knew nothing about my complicated family. When they asked about my background, I stayed vague. Parents live in California, 1 sibling, not very close. The startup culture was intense, thrilling. Ping-pong tables and free food, sure, but we also had a mission. We all believed we were building something significant. Late nights felt like investments, not sacrifices. I learned from people who had already sold companies. They knew the game. I started saving aggressively. Every payday, I budgeted for rent, utilities, food, a small entertainment fund. Everything else was saved or invested. My coworkers thought I was paranoid. They splurged on fancy dinners and weekend getaways. I remembered being broke too well to be reckless. Around this time, Olivia announced her first pregnancy. The family chat exploded with joy. Mom was ecstatic to be a grandma. Dad started talking about legacy. I sent Olivia my congratulations and a gift card, which she accepted with a generic thank you. Days later, the baby shower was in California. I couldn't afford the flight, the gift, and the time off work, so I stayed and worked. Olivia sent photos, extravagant decor, designer baby outfits, a cake that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Mom commented on every photo, gushing about how lovely everything was, how lucky they were. I worked extra hours that weekend, crushing a tough project. My boss noticed. That led to more responsibility, more money, more opportunities. I met Daniel Stevens, one of the company's co-founders. He was brilliant, awkward, obsessed with data security. I started as a junior developer, but Daniel saw something in me. Within a year, I was managing my own team. Within 2, I was his professional partner in almost every sense. Daniel reminded me of myself. Underappreciated, driven by something deeper than money. He was the weird kid in school who programmed instead of socializing. His parents wanted him to be a doctor. He disappointed them when he dropped out of medical school to start a tech company. We connected over family expectations and the freedom to disappoint people who never truly knew us. Our working relationship was pure chemistry. He'd sketch impossible concepts on whiteboards, and I'd figure out how to make them happen. His vision, my execution. The rest of the team noticed, calling us the Brain Trust. We worked 80-hour weeks, survived on coffee and sheer willpower. Our software was good, revolutionary. Companies started licensing it. Small contracts became big ones. Tech giants started paying attention. The first time a Fortune 500 company licensed our software, Daniel and I celebrated at a dive bar. We weren't champagne people. We ordered whiskey and sat in a booth that smelled like decades of spilled beer, laughing like idiots. "We did it," he said. "We built something that mattered. Your family must be proud." He was a little drunk. I laughed. "They don't really understand what I do. My sister thinks I fix computers. She once asked me if I could help her printer connect to Wi-Fi. When I tried to explain what I actually do, she got bored and changed the subject to her kitchen renovation." Daniel just shook his head. "My parents still ask when I'm going back to medical school. Some people can't see past their own expectations." We clinked glasses to that, to being seen by those who mattered, even if our families weren't there. As the company grew, so did my role. I wasn't just coding anymore. I was making strategic decisions, hiring teammates, negotiating contracts. Daniel trusted me completely. And because of that, I had equity that mirrored my worth. When we finalized the ownership structure, I ended up owning 40% of the company. Daniel had 40%, the rest went to early investors and key employees. I didn't tell my family any of this. Why would I? Every time I mentioned an achievement, Olivia found a way to undermine it. When I told them I was promoted to senior developer, she announced her engagement to Adam Walker, whose father owned a chain of auto dealerships. The conversation immediately turned to her princess-cut diamond and wedding plans. This was early in my second year at the startup. Olivia dropped the news in the family chat, a picture of her hand, a massive ring, at least 2 carats, maybe 3. Adam proposed on a Maui beach trip, dropping to one knee at sunset while a photographer captured it all. The photos were expertly edited and uploaded within hours. My mom called me, crying with joy. "Your sister is so blessed," she kept repeating. "Adam is such a catch. He's going to take such good care of her." I was troubleshooting a critical system meltdown when she called. I had 3 developers waiting for my feedback, a customer presentation in 2 hours. I said, "Congratulations," and then, "I have to go." Mom sounded disappointed that I wasn't more thrilled. The truth was I felt nothing. Olivia's happiness had lost all meaning to me somewhere along the way. Her life was hers. Mine was mine. The only intersection was obligation. I went to the wedding alone. I was 25, wearing a dress I'd bought new from a department store, and I still felt invisible. Olivia's bridesmaids were sorority sisters, straight out of a magazine. I sat at a table with distant relatives who spent the whole reception glued to their phones. The wedding was at a resort in Napa Valley, 3 days of celebrations. I could only afford to attend the wedding itself, flying in Saturday morning and leaving straight from the reception that evening. I missed the welcome dinner and the morning after breakfast. No one seemed to notice. The ceremony was gorgeous, but in an overpriced, impersonal way. White flowers everywhere, a string quartet. Olivia looked stunning in a couture gown probably more expensive than my car. Adam cried as she walked down the aisle, filmed from multiple angles. I sat 17 rows back on the bride's side, between a great-aunt who kept asking who I was and a family acquaintance I'd never met. Olivia walked past, and her gaze swept right over me. I don't think she even saw me. During the toasts, Olivia's maid of honor talked about how Olivia was always meant for success, always knew what she wanted. My dad's toast highlighted how proud he was of his accomplished daughters, but he only gave examples of Olivia. Mom shed tears of joy. I sipped champagne and wondered why I had bothered coming. The reception was held in a vineyard, golden hour lighting, making everything look like a movie. I tried to socialize, but kept finding myself in conversations where I was the odd one out. Olivia's friends discussed spin classes and vacation homes. Adam's family talked about golf handicaps and investment properties. I nursed my drink, checking my phone for work emails just to have something to do. At some point, a groomsman approached me. He was drunk but friendly, asking how I knew the couple. When I told him I was Olivia's sister, he looked genuinely shocked. Really? She never mentioned having a sister. We're not close, I said. He nodded as if that explained everything, then went to find someone more interesting to talk to. I left during the dancing, claiming I had a flight to catch. No one tried to stop me. I Ubered to the airport, changed into comfortable clothes in a restroom, and worked on code for a project due Monday while waiting for my red-eye. It was a better use of my time than trying to enjoy a party where I didn't fit. Flying back to Austin, I felt relieved. I had fulfilled my familial obligation. I had shown up. I had been polite. Now I could go back to my real life, the one I was building, brick by brick, the one that truly mattered. I texted Olivia from the airport, another congrats. She replied with a heart emoji. That was the extent of our conversation. Olivia announced her first pregnancy about 8 months after the wedding. By then, she'd fully embraced being a lifestyle influencer, documenting everything. Gender reveal parties, nursery design blogs, pregnancy photo shoots. Her pregnancy was a meticulously planned performance. She had Ella in the summer, and her birth announcement got thousands of likes. I sent useful baby goods from her registry. Olivia shared a boilerplate thank you story on Instagram, tagging everyone who'd contributed gifts. I wasn't sure if she even knew which products came from me. Being underrated means no one pays attention. While my family was obsessed with Olivia's Instagram-perfect existence, I was building something real. Daniel and I had created software that was getting serious attention. Tech companies weren't just licensing it anymore. They wanted to buy the entire company. 3 months after the wedding, I got a call from Daniel around midnight. A major firm wanted to talk about a potential acquisition. He could barely speak, his voice trembling with a mix of excitement and dread. We'd anticipated this moment, but the jump from theoretical potential to actual reality felt different. We met their team the next week. Corporate executives in fancy suits, asking technical questions, making financial projections. Daniel handled the vision. I handled the technical details and the actual execution. We were a good team. By the end of the meeting, they were more interested than when we began. The paperwork started pouring in, NDAs, tentative offers, due diligence requests. Our lawyer, a woman Daniel had worked with before, guided us through every step. She was blunt about the odds. Most acquisitions failed. Don't get excited until the money's in the bank, she told me. I took her advice. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell my friends. I just kept working, living in my small apartment, saving money like always. If the deal went through, great. If not, I'd still have a good career and shares in a growing company. I was 26 when we received the first serious offer, $14 million. Daniel and I each owned 40%, the other 20% distributed among early investors. My portion would be worth $5.5 million. I couldn't wrap my head around that number. It felt like monopoly money. Daniel wanted to wait. He believed we could build something bigger. I trusted his instincts. He'd been right about everything else. We turned down the offer and kept working. 6 months later, another offer came in, $22 million, then $32 million. We kept saying no. Every rejection felt like a gamble. What if we'd peaked? What if we turned away life-changing money, only to see the company fail? I stayed up some nights, crunching numbers, calculating how long $5.5 million would last, how different my life could be. But Daniel's confidence was infectious. He showed me projections, market research, growth potential. Our software was becoming the industry standard. Companies weren't just licensing it, they were building entire security systems around it. We were becoming indispensable. That meant leverage. We hired a CFO with experience in successful exits. She was in her 50s, sharp as a razor, and didn't take any crap. She reviewed our financials, our contracts, our growth trajectory, and declared us fools for thinking anything less than $37 million. You're not just selling software, she explained. You're selling the future of data security. Price accordingly. This is what we did. When the next offer came in at $40 million, we countered at $80 million. They laughed. We walked away. By then, 3 corporations were interested, which meant competition. Competition meant better terms. I was still living in my little apartment, still browsing sales. The money was imaginary, tied to a company that existed mostly as code and contracts. My family had no idea because I never told them. What was the point? They had already decided who I was. Olivia had quit her marketing job after the wedding. Adam's family money meant she didn't need to work. She spent her days doing yoga, getting her nails done, and sharing her blessed life on social media. My mom would send me Olivia's posts with captions like, "Your sister looks so happy." The implication was clear. Olivia had won at life. I was still struggling. Olivia's second child, Jacob, was born by this point. 2 kids before 30, both meticulously planned and publicly broadcasted on social media. Her life looked perfect, at least in the carefully curated squares of Instagram. Beautiful home, beautiful children, beautiful clothes. She'd even become a micro-influencer, getting free things in exchange for posts. What I didn't realize was that Adam's financial situation wasn't as stable as it seemed. Adam's father owned many dealerships, but Adam insisted on owning his own location to prove himself. He'd taken out significant loans to invest in a franchise. He was sure he could make it profitable. When things started going south, his pride kept him from asking his father for help. But I wouldn't learn any of this until much later. I watched from a distance, fascinated and repulsed. How much of it was real? Did she truly love the life she portrayed? Or was she, in her own way, trapped, performing for an audience that expected a perfection I didn't want? We barely communicated outside of generic Christmas texts. She was busy with her wonderful life. I was busy building something tangible. That Christmas, Mom tried to arrange a family get-together. I declined, citing work commitments. It was partly true, we were in the thick of heated negotiations. But mostly, I just didn't want to spend a week watching Olivia's highlight reel and being reminded of my own perceived inadequacy. Mom was hurt. She sent a long email about how important family was, how I shouldn't let work rule my life, and how I was missing out on seeing my niece and nephew grow up. She didn't mention that I'd only met Jacob twice, both brief encounters. She didn't mention that Olivia had never once asked about my life or expressed an interest in seeing me. It seemed I was solely responsible for maintaining family connections. I didn't reply to her email. I worked through Christmas, and I was happy about it. Thanksgiving that year was particularly harsh. Olivia and Adam had recently bought a house in a gated community. She spent the entire evening talking about crown molding and granite countertops. When Mom asked about my life, I replied that we were in acquisition talks. "That's nice, dear," Mom said vaguely. "Olivia, tell us more about the master bathroom renovation." I stopped trying to explain after that. The final bid came in February. $80 million for the whole deal. Daniel called me at 11 p.m., his voice shaking. The buyers were serious. They wanted our software, our people, our vision. This was it, the moment we'd been working toward for 6 years. My portion would be $34 million. After taxes and repaying early investors who chose lower returns, I'd have around $8.5 million in liquid assets. $8.5 million. I sat on my apartment floor for an hour, just staring at the wall. Daniel and I signed the paperwork in March. The money arrived in my account 2 weeks later. I watched my banking app update and saw an unfamiliar balance. I was a millionaire before 27, and no one in my family knew. I didn't buy a mansion. I didn't buy a sports car. I hired a financial advisor and invested most of it cautiously. I did buy a beautiful condo in a good neighborhood, fully furnished with new items. I bought clothes that fit properly. I donated to causes I cared about. I lived comfortably, but not extravagantly. The secret felt incredible. For the first time in my life, I had something completely mine, something my family couldn't take away, claim, or make about Olivia. My financial advisor had given me a folder of papers to review and sign. I grabbed them on my way out the door one morning, planning to glance through them at lunch. Instead, I got called into back-to-back meetings. I slipped the folder into my handbag, figuring I'd deal with it later. Among the documents was a recent portfolio statement that showed my total balance. I completely forgot it was there, until Olivia found it. Easter was approaching, and Mom called to demand I come to dinner. I usually avoided holidays, but something compelled me to agree this time. Maybe I felt charitable. Maybe I wanted to see things from a different angle. Or maybe I just wanted to prove to myself that their opinions didn't matter anymore. I drove to their house in my new car, nothing flashy, just a reliable premium vehicle. I parked on the street and walked up to my childhood home, carrying a store-bought pie because I'm not much of a baker. Olivia answered the door. She looked me up and down. I instantly knew my clothes were expensive. Very expensive. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Claire," she said, "you look different." "Thanks," I replied, walking inside. "You look great too." The house was decked out for Easter, pastels everywhere. Adam was in the living room, watching basketball with Dad. Mom was in the kitchen, finishing dinner. Olivia's 2 children, Ella and Jacob, were running around, high on chocolate. I hugged my parents, tried to relax into the usual awkwardness of family gatherings. Dad asked about my job in the generic way he always did, not really listening to my answer. Mom admired my blouse and asked where I bought it. I said, Nordstrom, and she looked surprised. "Splurging a bit," Olivia murmured from behind me. "Did you get a raise?" "Something like that," I said. Dinner was the typical production. Olivia held court, discussing Jacob's soccer team and Ella's dance recital. Adam made periodic comments about his dealership's sales performance. Mom and Dad nodded, completely engrossed. I ate ham and scalloped potatoes, feeling like I was watching a performance I'd seen 100 times before. After dinner, just as Mom was bringing out dessert, my phone rang. My financial advisor. I exchanged glances with them. I excused myself and went to the back porch to take the call. It was nothing important, just a quick question about some papers needing signatures. The conversation lasted about 5 minutes. When I walked back inside, the mood had shifted. Olivia was standing in the hallway, holding my purse. My stomach dropped. "You left this on the chair," she said, her voice odd. "Your wallet fell out when I picked it up. Things spilled everywhere." She held out a bank statement that had fallen from the folder. The balance was clearly visible. $8.5 million plus change. The room went silent. Mom's pie server clattered onto the counter. Dad's eyes widened. Adam leaned forward. Olivia's face cycled through a spectrum of emotions. Shock, confusion, anger, then finally calculation. "Is this real?" Olivia demanded. I took the statement from her hand, folded it neatly, and slipped it back into my wallet. My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady. "It's none of your business." $8.5 million. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. "Claire, where did you get $8.5 million? "I earned it," I stated simply. Olivia laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "You earned it doing what?" "You work in computers. Programmers don't make $8.5 million. "This one did," I countered. "My company was acquired. That's my share." The hush that followed was deafening. I could see them all recalculating everything they thought they knew about me. The thrift store girl was a millionaire. The family disappointment had more wealth than any of them. Dad found his voice first. "Claire, that's wonderful. Truly. Why didn't you tell us?" "Because it's my business," I replied. "And because I knew this would happen." "What would happen?" Mom asked, her expression wounded. "This," I gestured to their faces. "You've never cared about my success before. Why would I share this with you now?" Olivia's shock was dissolving into something ugly. I could see the wheels spinning, the entitlement rising to the surface. "After everything this family has done for you." "Like what?" I cut her off. "Please enlighten me. What has this family done for me?" "We raised you," Mom exclaimed. "You raised both of us," I retorted. "You paid for Olivia's entire college education while I worked myself into exhaustion just to afford community college. You celebrated every one of Olivia's achievements while barely acknowledging mine. You let her mock me for years, calling me thrift store girl, like it was funny. That was just teasing," Olivia said defensively. "It was cruel," I shot back. "And you all let it happen. You all participated." Adam, who had been quiet, now chimed in. "Claire, Olivia's just surprised. We all are. This is a lot to process, but family is family, right? And family helps each other." There it was. The underlying tension. They wanted my money. Help each other how? I asked, already knowing the answer. Olivia rushed in, her voice taking on a plaintive tone that might have worked on me once. "Claire, Adam's dealership has been struggling. The economy, supply chain issues, you know how it is. We might lose the house. We have kids to think about. You don't have children. You don't have a husband. You don't have anyone depending on you. You have more money than you could ever spend." I just stared at her. This woman had made my childhood miserable, criticized my struggles, never once asked if I was okay or needed help. And now she wanted my money. "So, let me get this straight," I began carefully. "You want me to just give you my money?" The money I earned while you were posting selfies on Instagram? The money I made while you quit your job to play housewife? You want me to hand over what I worked for because Adam made bad business decisions? It's not like that. Adam argued. It's a loan. We'd pay you back. No, you wouldn't, I said bluntly. And even if you intended to, you couldn't. If you can't manage your own finances, why would I trust you with mine? Mom stepped closer, her expression earnest. Claire, honey, please. Olivia is your sister. Those are your niece and nephew. You wouldn't let them lose their home, would you? How much are you asking for? I inquired, genuinely intrigued by their audacity. Olivia and Adam exchanged a glance. $450,000, Olivia said. It would cover everything. The mortgage, the debts, enough to get us back on our feet. It's nothing to you. It's barely 5% of what you have, but for us, it would mean everything. Something shifted inside me. The years of being ignored, dismissed, mocked, it all crystallized into perfect clarity. These people didn't love me. They never had. I was just someone they kept around to boost their own self-esteem. And now that I had something they wanted, I was suddenly family. No, I said. Olivia blinked. What? No, I'm not giving you money. Not $450,000. Not $500. Not $5. Her cheeks flushed crimson. Are you serious? After everything? After everything? I countered, raising my voice. After you spent our entire childhood making me feel worthless? After you called me thrift store girl at every opportunity? After this family made it clear I was worth less than you in every way that mattered? Now you want me to rescue you. We're family, Olivia insisted. Family supports each other, I said coldly. Family doesn't mock each other. Family doesn't play favorites. You want to know what family is? It's not this. It never was. Dad tried again, his voice taking on the authoritative tone he used when we were kids. Claire, you're being selfish. Your sister needs help, and you have the means to provide it. This is what decent people do. Something inside me cracked. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. The ridiculousness of it all. They called me selfish after a lifetime of their selfishness. It was too much. The laughter just kept pouring out of me in waves. Decent people? I gasped between laughs. Where were the decent people when I was eating ramen for dinner so I could afford textbooks? Where was family when I was working 2 jobs and going to school full-time? Where was support when I was building a career from nothing? We didn't realize you needed help, Mom said faintly. You didn't ask, I said, my laughter fading. You never asked because you didn't care. As long as Olivia was happy and successful and posting pretty pictures, I could suffer in silence. I was just the thrift store girl. Remember? I wasn't worth your attention. Olivia's expression was contorted with pure hatred. Now you're really going to let us lose everything? You're going to let your niece and nephew be homeless because you're petty and bitter. You're not going to be homeless, I murmured, exhausted. You're being dramatic. Sell the house, downsize, live within your means like I had to. Figure it out like I had to. Work for it like I did. I have children, Olivia shrieked. Then set a better example for them. I fired back. Show them that hard work matters. Show them that you can't just coast on charm and good looks. Show them that actions have consequences. Adam stood up, his face harsh. You're making a big mistake. We're family. You're going to regret burning these bridges. I grabbed my handbag and started for the door. They followed, their voices overlapping, pleading, demanding, threatening all at once. Olivia grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. Please, she begged. And for a moment, she looked truly desperate. Claire, please. I'm sorry about the stupid nickname. I'm sorry I wasn't nice. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Just help us, please. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was still beautiful, perfectly put together, but her eyes were wild. Her entire existence had been built on the generosity of others, and now it was crumbling. I felt nothing. I'm sorry, too, I said gently. I'm sorry you're in this situation. I'm sorry you made choices that led here. But I'm not your bailout. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not the thrift store girl you can dismiss and ignore until you need something. I pulled my arm free and reached for the doorknob. Olivia's apologies instantly turned to fury. You're selfish, she hissed. After everything we've done for you. We gave you a home. We fed you. We raised you. And this is how you repay us. You did the bare minimum that parents are legally obligated to do, I responded. That doesn't entitle you to my money. Mom was crying now. Dad was red-faced and raged. Adam was pacing. Olivia looked like she wanted to physically assault me. I opened the door. Claire, Dad stated sternly, if you walk out that door, you're not welcome back. If you choose money over family, you're no daughter of mine. I hesitated in the doorway and turned back to face them. You chose Olivia over me. My entire life, you chose appearances over substance. You chose comfort over fairness. You made your choice a long time ago. I'm just finally making mine. You'll regret this. Olivia shrieked after me. When you're old and alone with nobody who loves you, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember that you chose money over your own family. I smiled at her, and she took a step back. It must have been a truly awful smile. I'd rather be alone with $8.5 million than surrounded by people who only love me for what I can give them. Get out, Olivia screamed. Get out and don't come back. That's the plan, I said. She surged forward, slamming the door in my face. I heard the lock click through the wood. Inside, I could hear yelling, sobbing, the chaos of a family disintegrating. I stood there for a moment, waiting to feel something. Regret? Despair? Nothing. Instead, I felt lighter. I walked to my car, got inside, and drove away from that house for the final time. My phone started ringing before I got to the freeway. Olivia. I declined the call. She called again, declined again. I blocked her number. Then I blocked Mom's, Dad's, Adam's. The stillness was amazing. Over the next few weeks, they tried everything. Mom wrote emails, imploring me to reconsider, claiming Olivia was having breakdowns, the stress impacting the kids. Dad's emails started reasonably, but grew progressively irate when I failed to reply. Olivia created new email addresses when I blocked the old ones. Her messages alternated between apologies and threats. Adam tried LinkedIn messages, Facebook friend requests from fake profiles. I ignored it all. When Dad's lawyer sent a threatening letter about alleged inheritance claims, my lawyer promptly issued a cease and desist letter, effectively shutting down that avenue. The harassing slowly lessened, then stopped altogether. I learned through a mutual acquaintance that Olivia and Adam did lose their home. They moved into a rental in a less desirable area. Adam's dealership closed. Olivia had to get a real job, working in retail at a mall. The gated neighborhood, the Instagram-perfect existence, it was all gone. I felt a flicker of pity, but it faded quickly. They had made their choices. They had built their lives on unsustainable foundations. Their financial difficulties were not my problem to solve. How I spent my money was entirely my business. I funded scholarships for students from low-income backgrounds pursuing computer science. I donated to organizations supporting women in tech. I invested in startups founded by people who reminded me of myself, eager, brilliant, and underappreciated. When my grandmother moved into assisted living, I bought her house. It was the one place from my childhood that held happy memories. I meticulously restored it, preserving all the important details. I live there now, surrounded by things I chose, things I earned, things that are genuinely mine. I started dating someone I met through work. Another developer with his own success story. Someone who understood the value of hard work because he'd experienced it firsthand. When I told him about my family, he didn't tell me to forgive them. He just took my hand and said, "Some people are family. Some are related. There's a distinction." 6 months after that Easter, I received a wedding invitation. Olivia and Adam were renewing their vows, a PR stunt to show their enduring strength. The invitation was addressed to Clare Thompson and guest. There was a handwritten note. "Despite everything, you're still my sister. I hope you'll come. We can talk." I threw it out without replying. A year after that Easter, Olivia sent me a message through a method she found that I hadn't blocked yet. It was long, rambling, full of apologies that felt scripted rather than real. She talked about how hard things had been, how much she'd learned, how she now understood what I'd been through. Finally, she asked if we could meet for coffee. She wrote that she didn't want to ask for anything, just to talk. I reread it 3 times. I remembered the girl I'd been, desperate for crumbs of acceptance from people who'd never truly seen me. I thought of the woman I'd become, strong enough to walk away from those who harmed me. I deleted the email without replying. Some bridges are not worth repairing. Some doors, once slammed, should remain closed. Some family are best left behind. I learned this in therapy. Yes, I went to therapy because the money allowed me to afford the healing I needed after spending my entire life trying to earn affection that would never be freely given. I had been performing for an unappreciative audience. When I stopped performing and wanting their approval, I became free. The money didn't heal me. It gave me options, stability, and comfort, but it didn't heal my wounds. That work was harder, and it took longer. I had to unlearn the idea that I was worthless, that I deserved less, that I should be grateful for scraps. I am enough. I always was. The thrift store girl who pieced together outfits from discarded fragments was just as valuable as the millionaire I eventually became. The only difference is that now I know it. These days, my life is peaceful. I work on projects I find interesting. I travel when I want to. I have friends who choose me, not out of blood or obligation, but because they genuinely enjoy who I am. My boyfriend thinks my thrift store finds are charming. He likes hearing stories about the vintage leather jacket, which I still have hanging in my closet. I built a life that is truly mine. No one can belittle it, disparage it, or take credit for it. Sometimes I wonder if my family remembers that Easter dinner. If they ever replay the moment they found out I was wealthy and demanded I share it. Most likely, they won't understand why I laughed in their faces and walked away. People like that rarely do. They will always feel entitled to what others have earned. They will always believe that family means claiming each other's success without contributing to it. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm in the house that I genuinely own, I remember standing at that doorway with Olivia screaming at me, telling me to go. I remember the sound of the door slamming in my face and the finality of the lock clicking into place. I remember how it felt to walk away, and I smile, because they actually did me a favor. They relieved me of the last remaining obligation I felt toward them. They showed me their true selves one final time. They slammed the door on a relationship I had been striving to maintain out of guilt and habit. And I walked away feeling lighter than I had ever felt before. The thrift store girl became a millionaire. The family's disappointment became more successful than they could have ever dreamed. The girl they overlooked became someone they couldn't ignore. And when they finally saw me, wanted something from me, needed what I made, I refused. No one warns you about the power of stepping away. The power to choose oneself. The strength of refusing to set yourself on fire to keep others warm who would never do the same for you. I don't regret it. Not for 1 second. Not while I'm lying in bed in my beautiful house. Not when I'm funding scholarships for girls like I was. Not when I'm living the life I choose, rather than the one chosen for me. Olivia was right about one thing, though. Just not how she meant it. I am occasionally alone. But I am not lonely. There's a distinction. Loneliness is being surrounded by people who don't see you. Being alone means you can breathe without having to apologize for taking up space. I'd rather have alone than be unloved. The last time I considered reaching out was on my birthday last year. I woke up to messages from friends, my boyfriend, people who chose to be in my life. I thought about how different it was from past birthdays, when my family would give me practical presents while Olivia received jewelry and trips. I briefly considered calling, just to see if anything had changed. Then I remembered Olivia's face when she saw my bank account, the calculating look in her eyes, how quickly affection turned into demands. I made pancakes instead, and treated myself to a spa day. Some people spend their entire lives seeking approval from people who never offer it. Some people hurt themselves trying to fit into spaces that were never meant for them. Some people accept crumbs and call them love. I did that for 26 years. Now I live differently. Now I know better. Now I understand that stepping away does not mean giving up. It is growing up. My family used to call me the thrift store girl as an insult. They assumed secondhand meant second-rate. They believed bargain hunting meant cheap living. They believed I was inferior to them because I lacked what they had. They were wrong about everything. The thrift store girl learned to recognize value where others saw trash. She learned to make damaged things beautiful. She discovered that worth is not determined by price tags, family acceptance, or Instagram likes. She learned to gamble on herself, and she won. So no, I will not reconcile with my family. I will not subsidize Olivia's lifestyle or serve as the family ATM. I will not attend holidays, pretend everything is normal, or accept half-hearted apologies meant to manipulate rather than heal. I'll be here in my house, living my life, making my choices. I'll be the thrift store girl who became a millionaire and found that some of life's best things can't be bought, like self-respect, genuine connections, and the peace that comes from finally putting yourself first. They slammed the door in my face, assuming it was punishment. It was freedom. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to walk away from people you thought were family to finally find yourself? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.